It's very simple, really, as form follows thought. As the reality is a dream, where you set your focus is what you attract into your experience. There comes a time when your frequency no longer is vibrating similarly to certain outlets, certain platforms, certain consciousness areas and forms of expression. Because you have cleared them within you. There is a difference when you still feel a draw, a strong pull, addiction, where there is still a sense of disempowerment because you have given your power away unconsciously, or you can also say your power was taken away from you unconsciously. But the higher part of you stands by and allows, as this is part of the greater game and play that you chose to experience yourself in. So welcome to the new platform. Now, as you have outgrown the attraction to lower frequential, fear-based, sensationalist, dark material, which are pockets of dreams that you may rather call nightmares, that you have been sharing space with as you have had vibrational matches within you. So the attraction came because there were still parts of you that were vibrating in that same frequency that you haven't fully remembered yet. And when we say remembered, we don't necessarily mean that you know the whole story, all the details, how that fragment was a part of you, is a part of you, and how it got fragmented. No. But it hasn't come back to you yet because you haven't sat and received that frequency within you yet. This is why you feel drawn to the match of those frequencies that come to you through media or that present themselves to you in your actual, on your stage, on the stage of your life. So when you were feeling bad about yourself because you were still feeling this addiction to watch, to listen about certain things happening in the world, layers upon layers upon layers of the low frequency match happenings where there was shared nightmare, shared reality scenario of very, very low vibration, very dark, dense, full of suffering and full of all the negative emotions based on fear, lots of fear there, yes. You kept being pulled into it because when you got pulled into it, there was this fascination of, oh my goodness, what is going on? And who is involved? And how does it have an impact on you? Then you noticed how it was pulling you down, and then you resisted it, and then you felt bad about being pulled in. Then you were in that loop of self-judgment, which is also adding to the low frequency, and addiction. Addiction is broken with presence. The addiction is being drawn in to that where you have given power to, where you have given power away, a frequency that shows up that you seem to have no power to draw yourself away from. Just like in your dreams. And then you do this thing of no, I'm not allowed, I can't, I'm not going to do that anymore. And, it's like strong, blah, blah, blah. You build up a wall just to have it crash again over and over. And then that's the addiction cycle, because every time you set yourself up for failure, when you react in resistance, because your reaction in resistance is still coming from fear. It's still coming from the place where you are still then riding that wave of that frequency where you have given your power away. That frequency you are still oblivious to, and you're surfing that wave where you are giving your power away in this yo-yo effect of push, pull, and that's kind of, it's like a vicious cycle. However, here's the good news. At the same time, as this is happening, space is coming in. Little by little, space is coming in. Because as this is happening, you are being exposed to that frequency. It is triggering, it's the match within you. That's why there is a pull. And so it is triggering that within you. And then, of course, you have the resistance, you push yourself away. However, within that play, within that stretch, within that experience, you are exposed to that very frequency that feels so uncomfortable. So very, very, very uncomfortable. And that's what it's all about. It's all about being able to truly, truly, truly allow that to be without pushing it away. Truly, 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 your focus has been on there, and then you beat yourself up about having your focus on something that pulls you down. Then by beating yourself up and by self-judging yourself, you are creating more distance between yourself and yourself. So you're creating a divide within yourself. And that is what is all the time, everything, all addictions, all disempowerment is from a divide within yourself that is artificial. That is an illusion. And this illusion seeks to be discovered. This illusion seeks to be seen, seeks to be fully recognized, seen through. And then the mending happens. So the illusion is that what causes pain, the illusion of separation from life, from this dream. That is, you are the dreamer of this dream. You are the tip of the iceberg, yes, and you do not feel completely lucid in this dream yet, and so hence you do not experience that the dream is lending itself completely to every, even before you can think of it, it's one with you. Every natural movement that comes from you. And this can first happen when there is no, this oneness with the dream, where you are the dream. This happens when there is no more fear, when there is no more division within you. But how do you get to that point where there is no more division within you? It's not a point, but you know, how do you get there? You have to feel all the division within you. So how do you do that? Does that just happen by... It happens a lot with your thoughts. Even your thoughts can trigger you. Can trigger these unpleasant memories. It happens in dreams. And then also it happens, of course, with other people in exchange, in communication with other people. And it can also happen with something we see, in some kind of form of media that comes into our field of awareness. when you have done this, met your shadows with presence. That's it. That's all there is to it. Meet those uncomfortable feelings that you feel with presence. You would not be feeling uncomfortable feelings from seeing something that is awful. If those feelings were not have already been felt by you before and then pushed away and stuck in there, stuck in your field as an imprint, as a traumatic imprint, a charge is now held that is not, a charge is held, a division is created, a distance is created within from who you are. An illusion is fortified. Your illusory self, which is the egoic mind, which is artificial in its conditioning, in its programming. Artificial, which means it's not in the natural evolution. Something came in order to create a very certain experience of this illusion and into our dream. So a distance to ourselves could occur for a very specific space of soul experience and soul growth. Pertaining to soul growth. Because when the soul grows from remembering where there was illusion, where there was fear, where there was distance, this growth can never ever be undone. It can never be undone. Even though there may be a point where a soul wishes to enter into a platform where it forgets in order to again grow, and it forgets that which it has accomplished, that growth that it has accomplished, and it seems to have devolved. However, that again is an illusion, because through this damping and dumbing down, it only means that there will be a greater remembering. It never goes away. This expansion of consciousness that a soul, which is what we are, has accomplished through experience cannot be forlorn, cannot be truly forgotten. That is a choice for further expansion. And the more we expand, the more we care. The more we are a part of ever greater communities, the greater our impact. The more we care about what is going on outside of ourselves, the greater the compassion is. So if you find yourself seeing something that in that moment triggers you, that in that moment it breaks your heart, or it doesn't feel good, it means that your heart has already been, you are meeting that aspect of your heart that has been broken, that is that shard. You're meeting that. So the part of you that comes in and says, oh, you shouldn't be looking at this, you shouldn't, but it already happened. The part that says you shouldn't be looking at this, this was not good of you to have this now show up in your field. This was not good of you to look at the screen at all, to look in that direction at all, even though it already happened. That is the part, that's again the egoic mind that is trying to protect yourself from this kind of pain. But it's not about protecting yourself from pain, it's about actually allowing the pain that is triggered into your presence. So it is meeting that pain with allowing that pain to be there. And if that pain can only be there when it is triggered by a certain story, a certain image, then allow that image. It already came into your field. So you don't focus on it. You don't go into it further. You don't take a bath in it. But it's already there. And that which is already there, you allow. That which shows up in your mind, in your thoughts, every time you have a painful thought, okay, that was painful. Ooh, okay, I'm just going to be present with that. I'm just going to be present with that. It's like a snapshot of reality. Just, yes, that's acceptance. That is happening, or that happened. Yes, that happened. Yes, that happened. And just boom, with that snapshot and that imprint, that emotional imprint, which is your soul giving yourself again a tiny little snippet of a trauma that is ready to be remembered. So we feel that. And over time, we will notice that what is interesting is that the kind of areas of reality that we have been looking into, that we have been fascinated by, they may absolutely lose their fascination because the vibration that they're coming from, like when they're coming from a certain vibration that is that is lower, that still entails a reality that does not uplift you, that you do not wish to be a part of, that you do not wish to live in. And when you hold your focus onto that kind of reality, which is going on in our reality somewhere, in some dimension in our reality, in some place on the planet, or in the solar system, or in the galaxy, whatever it is, when there is not that knee-jerk reaction anymore, when there is not that trigger anymore, that you all of a sudden you feel ugh, that's the emotion to feel when there's an impact with what you see. That's the emotion to be present with, to simply be present with. Instead of, and as you hear this, this will help you, instead of going into the self judgmenting, judging cycle, it will also get you there. Just as you hear this, as you become aware of this, you can speed up the process. The process can open up quicker as you become aware of this. It's always in your right timing, by the way. It always is. You cannot miss your mark. So you will become aware at some point, as you have, that those stories that have drawn you in before, they don't anymore. And so less and less of a certain kind of low frequency, and then in general, low frequency input and vibrations find their way into your field. And you may out of habit think, oh, well, what's going on there? Or what's going on with this? You know, I've been following that story for such a long time in that area, and wonder, you know, all those questions that are still open, you know. And now you notice that you listen to it as it's coming out into being discovered more and more, and yet you realize you're not even interested in that area anymore, you know? You just lose interest. And you become more attracted to higher vibrational content. Simply because also where you have remembered yourself, you are now empowered. And the purpose of a reality showing itself to you where suffering takes place, that was to trigger those emotions within you where you were still not embodied, where you were not remembered and not empowered. So it did feel disempowering when you were exposing yourself to these stories that told about a great physical power outside of yourself and all the doings and makings that was going on and that were thrown at humanity, and potentially also at you, and also definitely at you. That you were feeling. Now you're coming into the waters where you can sense, sensibility, It's right before you realize it fully. How you have experienced it oftentimes in your dreams. That you knew, you just had to believe. If you were to believe in something, you would know it would have the effect, or it would work. For example, you are in a dream and you were holding a very strange device in your hand and you had no idea how to use this device, and yet you knew that all you needed to do was believe that it worked and know that you knew how it functioned and you could use it. That's the other way around. It is just the other way around. If you are afraid of something, if you have the sense that something outside of yourself has power over you, then that is the experience you will have. You know this from your dreams. And this is how it is in our world. And something else outside of you can only have power over you, however, when you are still believing in it. And yes, we have heard this so many times, but it is that we are not aware where we are still believing. We're taking for granted so many of those streams that are a part of what we believe and what shapes our reality, including how gravity works, including gravity actually. Yet, you see, gravity is not about to be discovered. It's not in your playbook to discover how, gravity is a part of your printed in your imprint. And that if you would understand how reality works, how this dream quality of reality works, how this gravity would lose its effect on your physicality. Now, this is not what you at the moment are choosing to experience. This is not on the plate at the moment. Not at all. This is a very, very different phase of remembering. And so, for example, things such as limitations, but also impacts on your physicality that play out in a negative way, that make you sick, for example, or that cause distortions in your harmonic field. So impacts that you experience as very, very challenging, as weights upon you, that you understand they are a part of the dream to hold humanity in a tight box, hold them tight in this collective dream that has a certain range of frequency, and the devices were shaped and formed in a way that we use in our technology in order to support a platform that shares interface with lower frequential existences forms of existence, entities, beings that out of themselves cannot create. Cannot create. They are lost in the dream themselves and need to feed off of the creative dreamers, so that the creative dreamers can continue to create a soundscape, a space, a dream space for the non-creative beings that have lost their creativity abilities through fear, through inner divide and distance to their source consciousness. You understand? Whether they do this consciously or unconsciously, it is the whole palette. It is the whole palette. And yet they are not conscious of the fact of that they can return to the light. And neither is that their focus, choice. Some, it is a conscious choice to move away from the light, and others, there is no choice. At least that is their experience. So, this is where, out of this consciousness, our whole entire technology is based upon. and which is why we live in a museum, technology-wise. And so now we are at that, we are on a completely new platform where the only way, okay, so it has always been this way, that the only way to hold the higher, the creative consciousness, the consciousness that is connected to the higher self, to the soul, to hold it back. And by the way, this is also creating a soundscape, a space of experience, a platform, a stage of experience for souls to experience themselves in ways they never have before, in order to experience a major transformation in the sense of more of themselves. At the end of it, coming out of it, there is the expansion, so they can actually embody and experience more of who they truly are. They have to they have to compress themselves and go into a division, into a divide, and play within an illusion. And how is this illusion created? It is created by the fallen. That's who create this platform. Now, coming back to the part where there is this field, this certain understanding. First, we woke up more and more to the understanding of what certain technology, what the effects are on us, what the effects are on the biology, and also on the light body. So what space, for example, how space is shaped, and in the physicality, what materials are used, and the effect it has on the biology of our physical and our finer bodies. We have come to experience the effects of also denaturalizing our foods, denaturalizing our environment, and then the technologies, the kind of power technologies that we have with the AC/DC lines, and what kind of atmosphere they create, and what kind of impact that has, the cell phone towers and whatnot. This is what I'm talking about. Then the burning of the oil, and then breathing that in. All of this is what we're talking about, the toxins and the heavy metals and all of that. So this has, we have noticed how this all has this very, very uncomfortable, sickening, debilitating, disempowering impact on our physicality. Okay, so now that we are aware of this, yes, you have now experienced exactly it's like a okay, I have to explain it differently here. First, it's like at the end of it, you like everything unveils, right? Everything gets discovered. Like, oh my gosh, it's like way worse than we ever thought. Okay, like the more you look at it, it's like, oh my gosh, this is what it does to the body. Oh, no wonder I've been feeling like this, and so forth. So the more we unveil, the more we feel actually in the beginning disempowered. Because then we're like, oh my gosh, this has so much power over us. How are we? And then we get into the protection mechanisms. Oh, we can protect ourselves this way. We can clean out this way. And it gets very cumbersome. Because we can't even, the more we know it does, the more we have to protect. And but it, it doesn't protect against this. For that, you need to use this. And this medicine or so only takes out this metal. No, for the other metals which are in. It's like it gets so overwhelming. At some point, the more we discover, even though we are discovering in the intention of self-empowering, what does it really do with us? We realize, oh my gosh, how am I going to get past this? How am I going to get beyond this? How am I going to neutralize this? And that is a very important stage in the process. Is that stage of overwhelm, never gonna get there, never gonna make it, because as you are looking deeper down the rabbit hole and getting more and more details of all that under the sun has been thrown against us, thrown between our legs, so we cannot come to our full expression, let's say. So we are held down as souls or as human beings. Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It is so beautiful. When we reach that point where we are so overwhelmed and where we feel, oh, it doesn't matter what I do, there's always going to be, or how I protect and how I cleanse, there's always going to be another toxin, there's always going to be another thing they throw at us, there's always going to be another, then always going to be another technology, like, oh, then there's 5G, and oh, then there's this and this. Okay. In the surrender, because there is overwhelm, it is like the fear, that program of protection from a power that is outside of you, as you go through the process of being present with your fear. And as I said, every time your fear is triggered, even when you go into knee-jerk reaction mode and identify with the disempowered, unconscious part of you that is the victim and that is suffering, nevertheless, in that cycle, there is a little bit of space created there. It is some of it meets your presence and gets remembered and gets discharged back into your system. As it gets discharged, it gets released, and that is your relief, because it comes back into your system. It comes back into your heart. You receive it. And there is no fear there. There is no fear there. It is dissolved. It is back into the illusion is dissolved. And it's back to its original one unity, oneness, neutral energy that is connected all the way through it, through to source consciousness. It's that sound that now comes through to a pixel of you. And that's the process. As this process is going on, in that place of overwhelm, and then comes, I give up. It's like, oh, there's nothing I can do anyhow. I give up. It's like you give up the fight. Because the only one fighting let's really feel into this. The only one fighting, or the one fighting, is in fear. Is still in fear. And that fear wants to be filled. It is still there to be filled. And then there comes that phase where that, like, it shifts into fear is triggered, and you feel it in your body. But it doesn't take over. It doesn't take you over completely, because the trust that you have, oh, that's beautiful. Oh, I love that. The trust that you have, it's like you are now rooted in that. And you understand that when fear arises, it is your opportunity to feel it. So it's more in the body than in your mind. Your mind is not in that story going back and forth anymore in drama. Your mind is not identified consciously. You are not identifying anymore. There are little parts of you that still are, and that's what the fear is. But when you are present with that energy in you, then that identification also dissolves. Because you are already aware in the knowing that there is nothing truly happening against you. It is the part of you that is identified with the egoic mind, with the false sense of self, with the illusory character self that feels like is in that dream version of you where and that exists of course too, but once you look, it's almost like you were down in the water the whole time, and then you slowly emerge and you're at that half level point where if you look down, it's still that world in the water, but you can already see, just looking straight, that there is another world that's not in the water. And in that world, which is the same, well, that the water world is embedded in the greater dream. Let's say the water world is embedded in the sky world. And in the sky world, in the greater world, in the greater dream, that is the dream beyond the small fear-based dream, and it's just as real, it's actually more real. That's the thing. It's more real. All that which gave you fear, which triggered fear in you, and now we're coming back to the technology and the devices. All that is simply a part of that soundscape, of that space stage, to give you that certain experience so that you can move beyond it, grow out of it. I'm seeing a seed that needs a lot of pressure, and in that little seed that gets all that pressure is the oak tree, you know, thousands of years old, huge tree is in that seed. And what we can see then beyond that is, now we're seeing it, we're starting to see, now I'm starting to get the sense of it, that as we wake up to this greater dream, as we emerge from that tight, fear-based identification with illusory self dream, as because we start to remember our soul, our being that is not imprisoned here. That is free. Our free, always free being that has chosen this path, chosen to be here for that, for a very certain or in general for the purpose of expansion of consciousness, experiencing itself in a fuller way. And that then, those are now the pixels that are within us, that's the soul. Now it's that soul frequency, and they grow, and from that perspective, and it is a knowing that you feel in your body because you have dissolved and remembered so much fear. You can look also at the very hardware of the reality scape. For example, all this technology that has this impact on the physical body, or the toxins and so forth, and because this is a different dream, that you can transcend it all. You can transcend it all, even though you may not be experiencing it at the moment still yet. However, there's already no fear of it. There's already no fear of it. And you notice that every time you are, as is happening right now, you are connecting to your soul, focusing in on your soul. Oh my God, I'm so thirsty. And you're not with one bit focused on, even though I'm talking about the devices, but I'm talking about them from a higher perspective, from that perspective of the dream in which I, as a dreamer, I am dying to the old dream. Now, I will explain this, but I need to get a glass of water first. It's right there. Okay, it's been right there all along. How do you die to a dream? What dies? Okay, let's see. Wait. You die to a dream. You die to a perspective of reality. That dies off. And now you see it from higher perspective. From a truer perspective. So just like you can, in a dream, in a real dream, when you sleep, you can make something real by believing in it. It's also the other way around. Something loses its power by see, this is okay. these devices, these toxins, they only have a grip, a reach, a platform to tap into, to work in, to have an effect on, where those parts of us are in that dream, identified as, that old box of reality, that old box of self, where, okay, this is how it is, and these are the parameters, and beyond that, just nothing exists. So from the old self, yes, that has an effect. But the more of you that wakes up and just realizes, oh, this is my suit. Beautiful, I love it. I love this body. It's so alive. Every part of it is alive and is a consciousness unto itself. And yet, I'm so much more than the story of this body and everything I have believed about the story of this body. And I have believed in the time that I was in this body. To the soul, all these devices, it has no effect. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's like the only power that these devices have, even though the fascinating thing is, and also toxins and all of this, the fascinating thing is that they totally have that power as long as we are in that dream, in that world identified. 51% of us, they start to lose the effect and their power as we remember. And this happens as we are present with our fears. It's very simple, because as we are present with our fears, we remember, we mend the gap of the divide within us. And the charge, the negative charge, is released back into the system, transforms from negative charge, in the sense of negative is resistance, is saying no to who I am, no to what is, negating fear. So as the charge is released back into the system, that fear dissolves and that energy becomes neutral again. It's just energy. No longer fear. And what is done is done. What is melted, the ice that is melted, does not freeze again. That is done. This has gone through the whole entire cycle of trauma and healing, of forgetting and remembering, of contraction and expansion. And there is also the beauty is that the space of the soul, the world of the soul, the soundscape, the landscape, the stage, the dimension of the soul that is coming in as we are embodying our soul more. That is a reality that is right here as well. And that is literally, it's a finer vibration. It is also embodying the light body. And it is a higher vibration, it is a finer vibration, and it's not anymore, what I'm just getting is it's not anymore on that radio signal, on that same station, on the same radio station, where all these devices made from the lower, as I said before, consciousness, to keep us low, they have no more power. They don't, because they can't reach us. They can't reach us anymore. So somehow it's like something happens also with the physical body, then with the cells, and they vibrate on a different frequency, and whatever, all the all the frequential technology that is hard on our body, that yeah, it cannot reach us anymore. It can't doesn't have an effect anymore. Well, the image I'm just getting is an elephant that has a string around its leg, and as long as the elephant believes from its traumatized imprint that it still remembers from the chain that it could not break when it was young, that it cannot break the string because it believes the string is the chain, until it wakes up to the truer reality that it can break the string. And it can only wake up to that reality of the chain actually being a string when it faces the pain that the chain has caused. And the facing is the being present in the emotions, sitting with it in the emotions, and with that there is also usually an identification, there is a story, and we sit also with the story, and we sit with all the negative emotions of it, and with the images of it. We sit with that. We are simply holding that, and at the same time as we are doing that in our presence, and as we are having compassion for ourselves and for the others, we are not in the full identification of ourselves as, from the egoic mind that is causing this pain, as the identified self in this character, in this body. We are sitting with the identification from us beyond space, beyond this identification, because we are sitting as our soul. We are present as our soul, as our true self with this. This is how the old dream dies off. We unplug. We don't give our power to it anymore. And this is how we create a new world, a new dream. That is physical, that is manifest as well. What happens when we wake up to ourselves and slowly, with that, into the greater dream, is we lose interest in the old dream. And what happens with it? Well, what happens in the old dream? What happens to those that we knew that are still in the old dream? Well, we may have. Okay, hold on. If there is a connection to them through love. Because karma is karma is no longer created as we wake up. So there are no more karmic ties. The ties are purely out of love. Nothing gets thrown in our face anymore. What gets thrown in our face is that which ricochets, because it's still attached to us, because we're still attached to it, because it is still something within us pulling us down to say, look, there is still a part of you here that you haven't remembered yet. And the farther you go high, the jerk, the yank back down gets seems to get more brutal. But at the same time, you have more vision as well. As you have more presence. The presence is more readily available to be with it. So the connections are out of love. And if we still think of we think of, let's say, beings that are, or we see beings that are, oh, they're still in that dream, oh, they're still totally living in that dream. From our perspective, from the beyond perspective, from the greater perspective, that's totally fine, even if they are suffering and we have compassion. What we see is a soul going through its chosen experience that is perfect for it right now. If what shows up, for example, is if we are to step in and help and reach out a hand, that will naturally happen. It will naturally happen. It's just natural, like rescuing a butterfly out of a puddle of water. Or a bee that has gotten wet. It's just what comes natural to us. And that is then the attractor. So what then shows up for us, it is what we naturally are also drawn to, that we choose, we love to do. We love to be able to help. It's not anymore this, like in the old world, it's like, oh, you can't close your eyes and look away from all the terrible things happening in the world, because we need to look there, we need to do something about it. It's that pull, it's that burden, it's that pain, it's a completely different frequency. It's coming from the egoic mind. It's coming from division. It's coming from fear. It's coming from a whole other dreamscape of structure of reality. And it's coming from certain beliefs of what we need to do in order to create healing and paradise on earth. It's coming from a place where we have not embodied and understood yet that this paradise on earth is created through our vibrational existence, through our vibrational existence. So what does not naturally come and feel like coming from love, and this is what I want to do, if something feels overwhelming and pulls me down, what is there to do? There is to be present with that feeling. There is to be present with that feeling. If an action does not empower me or come from an empowered place, coming naturally, feeling like, okay, this is in the flow, and it is coming because I can see I'm just grabbing a hand that is grabbing out, that is reaching out to me. And it is just so natural. I have water on me. I'm walking by someone who's, or a koala bear that is thirsty, and I just give that person or the animal, I just give it water. It's as natural as reaching out to a glass of water and drinking yourself. It's so natural. It's not anymore coming from, oh, what do I need to do? How do I need to be in order to be a good person or to do the right thing? And overwhelm and that's the old dream. It's struggle. It's effort. It's fight. The soulscape is natural flow. There's no fear. It's only trust. And as you step more and more into that, you're just 51% into it, you know that it will only grow naturally. Become more and more a natural flow. And as the struggle from the parts that are still in the old arises, it becomes more and more easy to simply make space for it. Just be present with it. Instead of that knee-jerk reaction, action, reaction, action, reaction, and you're like in that loop, which is fine because, as you know, that loop undoes itself by being triggered. And that happens slowly, gradually, and then exponentially. And we are, we are now on a platform globally where we have stepped into exponential timeline.